Hello. So I learned a little bit from my first video yesterday. Hopefully, as I do these and I get better and better, I won't have my opening little thumbnail thing on my page with my mouth wide open and my eyes closed. Welcome back to the Barefoot Ginger vlog. I'm your Barefoot Ginger. How is everybody today? I truly mean that when I ask. I want everybody to start today with positive energy. And however you find that positive energy, please do it. Life is really hard right now, and any positive energy we can get, we need in our lives. Sorry, I had to turn up my screen resolution a little bit. So today I want to talk about, I want to start talking about, sorry, there was a lady in the road with walking her dog. Today I want to start talking about religious trauma and healing from religious trauma. And I want to preface it by saying I am not coming for any religion. Even the religion I left. It works for people. I will never tell people they shouldn't join a religion. I am personally saying my journey from a fourth generation, highly indoctrinated, highly regimented religious organization has brought me to where I am now. So that's going to be the only trigger warning I provide. Okay, so religious trauma happens for many reasons. The world of religion says it's because you're not faithful enough. You didn't try hard enough. You didn't have enough faith that God exists and didn't accept help, whatever the case may be. And people are allowed their own opinions. My opinion, my lived experience outweighs my opinion. So as I talk about religious trauma, and it will be a series, it'll probably be on a playlist, because this is an ongoing conversation that is more far-reaching and longer in content than just a 20-minute car ride to work. So just know that there will be many videos. And the reason that I'm talking about this now is because this is one of the things that is important to me on my vlog. So I've healed quite a bit, but I still have a long way to go. So let's talk about what that looks like. I was born into the LDS religion. I am the fourth great-granddaughter of the fourth Mormon prophet, Wilford Woodruff, which makes me a bit of pioneer heritage, shall we say. Pioneers is the moniker given to the men and women called saints that crossed the plains from Illinois to Utah, and they settled in the Utah Valley. That's just a brief overview. I'm not going to go into the history of all of that, just, kind of giving everyone a really quick overview of the terms I'm using and why. So, I am an ancestor of Mormon pioneers, and growing up was very, very much made aware to me that my family was aware that I was direct descendant of one of the founding prophets of our religion. I had a normal childhood with regard to, when I say normal, I mean, I want to put that in context for a minute. I say normal meaning it's not, I wasn't physically victimized at a young age by anyone in the leadership of my church. It was just the oppressive indoctrinations that you just grow up expecting because it's just part of your world, you know. It's like teaching a baby to talk and walk. You just do it. It's part of your everyday world, and you don't even think about it. You just live it. You know, things like the expectation that you must attend all church services. There was never a discussion. There was never, I have 5 siblings, and among all 5 of us, there was never an option. We didn't really get to choose whether we participated in this religion. It was just this unwritten expectation that you're born into it. When you're 8 years old, you get baptized and confirmed. That means that the men with the priesthood power give you the gift of the Holy Ghost. So you don't get it when you're born. You have to be gifted it after you get baptized, and only after you get baptized. Not to be confused with the light of Christ. The light of Christ is what you have either if you were never a member of the church, or if you're a child before the age of 8. That's that intuition that we have, right? That, you know, God is speaking to us, but it's not the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost. It's the light of Christ. Again, I could go for days on that. If you want to delve more into that, there's tons of ex-Mormon Reddits. There's, you know, people on YouTube that go into very, very deep detail, all these things. I'm just covering it just very generally so that when I talk about these things, it doesn't sound, you know, completely foreign. So I was baptized at 8, confirmed by my dad, and just kind of lived the Mormon experience as a youth. We don't believe in drinking coffee, but we can have all the soda we want. So it's not about caffeine. I think it has something to do with the hot drink, the brewed tea leaves and the brewed coffee or something, because we're not even supposed to have herbal tea or green tea. Which I don't understand that, because herbal tea has so many healing properties. Why wouldn't you take advantage of all those natural remedies? Anyway, I digress. So, the trauma part comes in when I had a pretty intense experience when I was 11 that started to change my world a little bit. Not going to go into it right now. That might be something for later. But as a result of that experience, I started holding things inside and becoming angry. So I had these things that I just didn't understand, and maybe secretly didn't agree with regard to the church. Like, for example, one of my best friends grew up in a non-LDS home, and she was secretly, well, in the really small community I grew up in Utah, she was very openly judged for not espousing the same religious beliefs as the rest of the community, which is probably 80% Mormon, this town I grew up in. I loved her for who she was, and I went to one of her ceremonies, and I thought it was incredibly bizarre. I still think it's kind of weird, but I'm less judgmental about it than I was for 30 years. Again, I'm just going to kind of, skip over what the exact incident was. It wasn't anything inappropriate. It was just a different kind of religious ceremony than I was ever brought up in. We're very solemn. We show up in our beautiful dresses and coiffed hair, and the men are in white shirts and suits and ties, and we're quiet people in church. They call it reverent. There's no loud laughing, there's no guitar music, there's no band. They do have an organ and a piano, and if somebody does come in and do a musical number, it's usually a violin, a piano, a flute. They would do the bells at Christmas, but no percussion, no electric guitar, no saxophone, no drums. I don't make the rules. I'm just saying how it is, right? So it's very quiet. The organ is playing some very soft church music, and it's only Mormon music. It's not Christian music, which I'm an agnostic right now. Is kind of where I consider myself, but I do like listening to, a few songs that are beautifully done, just uplifting messages, Anyway, so that's kind of the environment. And then, sorry, this guy next to me is a lot. And then you come in, you can visit with somebody as long as you use what we used to call our church voices. So it's just above a whisper. Like I said, there's no laughing, there's no jocularity, no joke telling, no happiness, really. You're practicing on how to be silent. So then you all file in and sit on benches, and the men preside over the entire congregation. They assign talks to volunteers. Nobody at this level of the Mormon Church receives any kind of stipend. It's all lay ministry, meaning they get no money for it. They don't have any formal religious education. They don't have any sort of understanding of theology. They're just, one day, one old white guy says to another old white guy, I think this guy should be, in charge of the ward, called bishops, And that's kind of how it happens. But they say that they were inspired by God. And again, there's lots and lots of YouTube videos and Reddit threads, but mostly YouTube videos. There's lots of ex-Mormon content on YouTube. If you want to delve more into that, feel free. So that's it. And then you break up. You go to your main meeting, and then you break up into groups, and then you go home. And that's the Mormon Sunday. And it really is an expectation. Like, there's not a choice. I remember the times that I was allowed to stay home. If I was sick, I had to stay in my bedroom in my pajamas all day, because if you're too sick for God, you're too sick to come out of your bedroom, was kind of I don't think my mom and dad ever put it in those specific terms, but that's kind of was the expectation that was built in, was that if you missed church, you had to stay in your pajamas and stay in your room. We could come out for meals and go to the bathroom and stuff, but you couldn't watch TV, you couldn't go outside, you couldn't hang out with your other siblings, which is weird, because if you're sick, you usually hang out on the couch, right? So I don't understand. Anyway, I guess it's, that's what Jesus wants. So, and there were some weird things, like I mentioned, my girlfriend was never what we call a never Mormon, or a never Mo. And we got along famously, but there were things that I didn't understand. Like, I was always told that she wasn't going to go to heaven. So here's this sweet young lady that I just met, that we became BFFs. We were sisters from a different mister, and yet I didn't get to be in heaven with her because she was a different religion. I fundamentally didn't understand that. We met when we were 12. And I just never understood it. But it's one of those that you just accept. Even if you don't understand it, even if you don't like it or agree with it, you still just go with the program. Stay in the boat. Those kinds of things. Because God. So this incident happened kind of, around the same time. I was preteen, and I changed. It changed who I was, but nobody was really paying attention. My mom was dealing with her own mental health issues. I'm not judging her at all, but it is what it is. She's dealing with her own mental health issue, and a big family like that, what do? You do what you can to pay the bills, right? You survive, however you need to survive. So I finally did commit some petty crimes, and didn't really have a juvenile record, but I did get taken to the police station. And finally opened up to my parents about what had happened to me, and they put me in counseling, and that helped a lot. But it wasn't enough. I had already started into the whole, I didn't commit any more crimes after that. No, no crimes, no drugs. That's not where I'm going with this. This is all just about the religious stuff. So, it was kind of swept under the rug, and it's like it was never talked about. I did my counseling, and then when I was in high school, through one of my other really good friends, I went on a blind date. Had I just graduated from high school, or was I about to? I think I had just graduated from high school. So keep in mind, we also do the whole high school, marriage, and babies. Again, it's one of those unwritten expectations. You're not necessarily going to look up anything on the church website and find, Mormons believe in, doctrine says that you get married and have lots of babies from the time you're 18, and you stay impoverished because babies are more important than financial stability. You're not really going to see anything about that. It's just one of those cultural expectations that just kind of is built into life. So off we go. I went on a blind date, 5 days, not 5 dates, but a total of 5 calendar days. We were engaged. Yeah, that happened. So that was in June, and by September we were married, and I was still only 18. I didn't turn 19 till the following January. So that happened. Was I in love with him? That's another conversation we're going to have. I thought I was in love with him. It felt like love. And he dragged me from pillar to post. I had 2 infant losses and 3 living children in 5 years. Maybe a little longer than 5 years, because the boys are 5 years apart. So maybe it was more like 6 or 7 years. For example, we got married in September, and I got pregnant that following December, and that was my first infant loss. And then I got pregnant again the following April, and that was my second infant loss. So, my first son was born just shy of our 3-year wedding anniversary. And then, 7 years, because my youngest was born just after our 7th anniversary. So, yeah. So, sorry, this guy, you guys, motorcycles. I'm trying really hard to not be judgmental about motorcycle drivers, but they zip in and out of traffic, and he just gave me a heart attack. Just came up on my left and waved in through traffic, and now he's gone. Anyway, sorry. Whew, a minute. My heart. So we kind of lived the Mormon dream, but he was a raging narcissist. And when I say live the Mormon dream, it's not really a dream, it's an expectation. He didn't keep a job. He was just a narcissist. I'm going to go into, specifically what his narcissism looked like for our family in one of these religious trauma video series. So put a pin in that, because I will come back to it. But let's just say that on the surface, everybody thought that we were just a typical Mormon, young couple raising kids and trying to get to heaven. And it felt like it's the only thing I knew. Like, my parents never fought. My parents are very loving people, but they're also very passive aggressive. So there was never any opposition. There was never any conflict. There was never any resolution to conflict, because there was never conflict. So I didn't know what conflict meant. Mormons are not good at boundaries, and Mormons are not good at understanding how necessary it is for conflict and conflict resolution. Guys, you have to learn how to agree with people who you don't agree with. You have to learn what conflict is, because life is conflict. Every single day I clock in to work, I'm faced with the possibility of conflict with my coworkers, conflict with the clients I work with, the guy at Taco Bell. I don't go to Taco Bell. That's just an example, right? So every single day is conflict. And when you're not taught what conflict is, or that conflict exists, you don't know what conflict is, right? So I had no idea that my life was a flaming pile of poo. I had no idea how damaging and how toxic my marriage was, because I wasn't taught. Again, not coming for anyone. This is just the life of a fundamentalist religion, right? Mormons are going to say, oh, it's not fundamentalist. It absolutely is. Absolutely is. High demand, high expectation, scrupulosity, absolutely is fundamental. Nonetheless, it's important to know that that's how it was, right? We didn't really, we didn't argue. We weren't allowed to argue. We weren't allowed to disagree with each other. We weren't allowed to say unkind things. Now, I'm not saying, here's my point. I'm almost at work, so I'm going to have to end this real quick. But my point is that being unkind isn't nice. But what happens when kids are unkind? And parents teach them how to properly handle that. Instead of just saying, go to your room and think about it. We don't say those things. Well, why? Because it's not Christ-like. It doesn't invite the Spirit of Christ into our home. Why? Right? It's what I'm saying. Teach each other why being unkind is so hurtful. Whether God's involved or not. And so, anyway, I'm going to end this on that note. We will continue later. But this was just touching the surface, just knowing that there is, 33 years later after I married my ex-husband, 33 years of lots of stuff, So, as I pull in to my parking spot, just know that there will be another one coming. I might have time to do it later on, but there will be actually many coming, so just watch that as a series of backing in, guys, a series of religious trauma and healing from religious trauma. So I'm here, 2 minutes in. I got 2 minutes away. Gonna go start my day. I've got a busy one. As you can see, it's gonna be a really warm day today, mid-80s. So I'm super excited for this spring weather. We're going to McCall in 2 days. So more of that to come. You're worthy, you're important, and you're loved. Talk later.